Hi there, this is Julie Deering of Seed World, and today we are continuing our Insider podcast with Jason Kaeb, who serves as the Business Development Director for KSI. We have been focused on the theme of transparency, and today we are going to be talking about slurry accuracy and how operators can take the slip out of slurries. We hope you enjoy our discussion. Okay, so today we're talking about slurry accuracy as it relates to transparency. And I think it would be good if we started just with kind of where we are in terms of slurry accuracy and where we have been.
Okay. Yeah. So, I want to, as we kind of talk through kind of the transparency goal and kind of having that as a mindset of some things that what KSI wants to try and kind of push in the marketplace. One of the I'll call it a black hole in the seed treatment transparency is historically when it comes to mixing slurries and how that kind of affects being able to show and reveal complete accuracy and transparency to your customers. And so slurry accuracy is kind of one thing, but then actually being able to report on that accuracy is an altogether another issue that we are wanting to move forward with progressing in the industry. So when we talk about building slurries and why are there even slurries and kind of what is a slurry and how does that kind of impact what we're talking about from a seed treatment equipment provider. We've kind of always focused on taking whatever product is on a single pump stand and applying that to the seed and being able to say, okay, that single product or that pump stand applied this percentage of accuracy. The challenge with slurries is that we are mixing multiple products together, and all of that mixing of products, it could be 2, 3, 4, up to 5 products going together into a single mix. The challenge is there's really no way, there has never been a way to say here's what the accuracy was of that mix. And so when we look at seed treatment system and we say, okay, across the board, you applied 99 or 100 or 101% accurate on your system, that's great and that's really important. But if you're using slurries, if the slurry was mixed incorrectly, or if the operator or the person mixing the slurry made a mistake or had a miscalculation when they were mixing their products together, the overall accuracy of that slurry really is not important because your one of your parts of that slurry threw the entire mix off. And so we can take a total mix. We've always been able to take a total mix of a slurry and apply that accurately, but there's been a challenge of helping operators get that slurry mixed correctly and then being able to report on that correctly. And so with mixing the slurry, there's always been slurry guides. The seed treatment providers will provide calculators, tools to help their people using their product to be able to mix a slurry correctly, and it's usually an Excel spreadsheet. Sometimes it could be like a web-based calculator, whatever that might be, that somebody can punch in the products that they're using, print that off, or take that out of Excel and say, okay, I need to add so many pounds of, based on the size of slurry I'm building, the recipe that I put into my slurry calculator. And then it's on me, the operator, to say, okay, I'm going to measure product A, pour it into my slurry tank. And that could be either measure using a volume. So I could say, okay, I need so many ounces of this product. And then I fill a beaker to that many ounces or gallons and I pour that in. Or it could be based on pounds, where I say, okay, I need 10 pounds of product A, 5 pounds of product B, et cetera. And I mix those together. And now I have my slurry. And then at that point, I can mix those together and let the seed treater apply the total rate of that slurry onto the seed. And that all works fine, except, like I mentioned earlier, if we run into a situation where the operator makes a mistake and they do 5.5 gallons instead of 5 gallons of a product, or they pour a little bit too much water in at the end, but do not adjust the total slurry rate. How does that all impact the overall accuracy of that slurry is something that we have never really been able to report on in the industry as a whole. And so that is kind of that's why I call it kind of a black hole, that irregardless of the accuracy of the seed treatment system holistically, we haven't been able to get down to the raw ingredients of a slurry and say your total slurry was 99% accurate, but your product A in that slurry was really only 92%, because when you built that slurry, you put not enough of this product and too much of this product into that slurry. And so that's kind of something that, as we think about transparency, is an issue that we feel like needs to be solved, or we need to at least have a solution or a tool to not just help users correct that, but also help the industry with confidence in those slurries that are being built by being able to report back on the accuracy of those raw ingredients.
Do we know if in those that, when you think of the slurry as a recipe, if, say product A is applied at 92% and product B is maybe, at 102%, when it's not formulated at as close to 100% as it should be, is something inactivated, because of the active ingredients, and
Right.
if exposed to so much of something, does it take away from its performance in terms of what it is intended to do?
Yes. Seed treatment providers are going to build in a level of, they're going to, they have the key is the active ingredient of that chemical on a per seed basis, and wanting to make sure that each seed has enough of that active ingredient to be able to do the job that it's been designed to do. And there is a range of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And in some cases, whether that's the 10% or 5% or 15%, before you start negatively affecting the efficacy of the seed, there is a range there, and that may vary from product to product, or from seed to seed, depending on what it's designed to do. But what we do know is that the accuracy that what a grower or what a farmer is paying for is 100% of that seed. So when you purchase a unit of treated seed, you're paying for that seed being treated 100%. You're not paying for a 90% treated seed. And so whether, at what point it crosses the line from negatively affecting the efficacy of that seed, and you start seeing yield loss or the just lack of performance, that may vary. But as a farmer, what we want to encourage people to know is that you're paying for all of that seed treatment going on that seed. And where the line is, and when you start seeing a performance issue, that may change. But it's very important for us to make sure that we are delivering all of the treatment at as close to 100% as possible. And not only putting all of the seed treatment on there is important, but if we can't even say with any assurance that we're doing that, or if we have nothing to fall back on, the questions will come up, and we'll start asking. It's not about 8% or about 2% or 1%. It's really about, we don't even know, which is a lot worse than even being able to say I'm 8% off. Because if we can't know, then we don't know if it's 50% or 150% or 10% or 95%. There's nothing to fall back on. And so the importance of being able to provide what that percentage is really, really important when it comes to being able to talk about what the actual accuracy is.
Right. And so what is KSI doing there?
So as we kind of been talking about in the last podcast and this podcast, and as we think about going forward, we have an emphasis on transparency, as you know. And when we think about the black hole of building slurries, this is something that we've put a lot of emphasis on. In the last 2 years, we've been piloting our auto treat systems with an onboard slurry building tool that not only allows us to help the operator build slurries accurately, because they can put in a recipe, and they can tell the system that multiple products are going to be applied from a single pump stand, which will drive the creation of a slurry. And it'll walk the user through, add this product and then this product and then this product. And we'll make sure that those slurries are built accurately before the process is complete. And so if the user does make a mistake, the system will what we call force a reconciliation process to bring all of the products within tolerance. And so what we found over the last 2 years is that this is an incredible help with our operators, just not having to let the system tell them what to do and how to add the products correctly. But not only are we giving the operators that tool from a building standpoint that helps them with great efficiency, and keeps them from having to use a lot of effort and time, mind power in the middle of treating season when you're trying to do 100 things to sit down and do the math on the exact slurry. The system takes care of all of that. But not only are we doing that, we're also then at the end of the run reporting more than just on the total slurry accuracy. We're saying, okay, so this total slurry was 101% accurate, say for example, but product A was mixed in at 98% and product B was mixed in at 102%. And so then we can actually, based on the ratio of that product in the slurry and the overall accuracy of the slurry, be able to say, okay, this product was delivered at this percent accurate. And we can print that off on a ticket. We can show that in the transactional databases. When we look at the accuracy of the system, we can see all of that. So that way our operators, our customers can ask the questions and our customers can have answers for them. This is something that we have seen a lot of interest in. And so like I said, not only is it helpful from an operator standpoint, but it's also from a reporting tool, incredibly valuable in being able to stand behind what you're doing from the slurry building and treatment application process.
Fantastic. And can you share some of the, I guess, more insight from the pilot project that you've done? Kind of how far and what some of the, I guess, give an example in terms of the feedback.
Sure.
Yeah. You did that a little bit, but I want to dive deeper.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that came up a decent amount when we were watching, there's kind of a couple of things I can kind of give on, and as we think through the last 2 years on the pilot, and we're moving into a production release of this system, one of the things that we've really realized is that it's not that operators don't care. It's not that they don't want to mix their slurry correctly, but like I kind of hit on this, it takes a decent amount of energy to go into making sure that you're building your slurry correctly. How big of slurry do you want? What are all the products? How much water do you want to add? Things like that can go into it that really make you sit down and think about what you're doing. And what we found is that without having a onboard tool that kind of walks the user through this, what happens is you get to the end of the slurry and you may be a little bit off, or you may have lost track of what you're doing and you kind of just call it good enough. And so you move on. There really is no accountability in what you have done or what you've mixed. And so you just move on, and no one will ever know whether that slurry was built correctly or not, or how far off it even is. We also get kind of, as we move through a day and the weather changes, it warms up or cools down through seed treating. Sometimes we'll add water or add more water or less water to a slurry to change how it covers the seed. Seed size makes a difference. So sometimes what happens is we'll get what we've seen is that somebody decides they're going to be treating some larger seed soybeans with a large seed size. And so what they'll do is they'll say, I need a little bit more water to cover my seed correctly so that it looks good. And so they just take an existing slurry that they've already built and they pour in water into that slurry. And then they just run with that slurry without changing the total application rate. When what they've really done is they've diluted the slurry to a point where you're applying the same rate on an overall slurry basis, but you have actually lowered the accuracy of each product within that slurry. And again, you know, from when you look at the seed, when you buy that seed, when you treat that seed, you really can't tell because you're talking about an active ingredient that is not visible to the eye. However, when you kind of go back and you actually watch this process play out and somebody has a lot of things going on, it's pretty easy just to do that. And kind of the last example that is fairly complicated, that you don't really think about, but is when you're building a slurry and you want to mix the same slurry on top of a slurry that's maybe half gone, and you're changing the water rate in that slurry to kind of, like I said, walk through the seed size change. Being able to take into account how many ounces of previous slurry you had left in that tank, and mixing a slurry on top of that, and being able to balance those two slurries together so that you can still apply the correct active ingredient from the products based on their application rate label, is really, really tricky math. And if you don't sit down and crunch those numbers, you're not going to mix that slurry and put it on the seed correctly. And so with auto treat and being able to pull that in, when we build slurries, when we add on to slurries, we take care of all of that math on the back end, where the user, really just tells the system, I want a slurry for this recipe, I want the slurry to be this big, and then it does all the work for you. And it's a significant help both for the operator and for the accuracy of that slurry.
I would also imagine it's a time savings as well.
Yes, for sure. So, when you think about, like I said, doing the math on these things, it's very, very common for, to pull something out and spend a number of minutes thinking about what you're doing for the day, figuring out what slurries you want for the day, and then printing that out, taking that, and kind of, having a process where you kind of do all of that work on your own. And the other thing that kind of leads into, the more efficient you can be, the quicker you can build a slurry and think through the correct rates or amounts of each product in the slurry, gives you some flexibility to be able to say, okay, I want to be able to build this slurry for just this one customer with this single product that I don't use very often, and be able to do that quickly. And as we see the industry, we kind of, there was a point, and it's still preferred to use direct draw, where we're pulling directly out of a keg and we're not mixing a slurry. Most people would still prefer to do that. However, there's always going to be, and it seems like this isn't going to change, there's going to be either one of two things: either really low rate products where you need to mix into a larger slurry because it's too low of a rate to apply all by itself. And so we need to be able to have a way to manage that low rate product and put that into a slurry and still do it accurately. But then there's also the everybody has a customer or a set of customers where they kind of do something different than they do for all their other customers. They have a unique need, or they have a kind of a unique request that you want to be able to deliver to them what they want. And a lot of times that is done through slurries, because it's not worth buying a 15-gallon keg of product that you're only going to treat 300 or 500 units of seed for it. And so being able to kind of walk through that process and guide the users through that process from an efficiency standpoint is really valuable.
Right. And we've talked previously about trying to break down that stereotype that redder is better, and that you can't visually inspect a seed treatment application in terms of its accuracy.
Right.
So my next question, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say, my next question is on kind of taking us back to the transparency aspect. So with this information and with the tool of AutoTreat in your pocket, how can this information be used?
Yes. So when we are looking at where KSI fits, the role KSI plays as an equipment provider in the seed delivery and seed treatment world, we kind of always have we look upstream and we look downstream at how our equipment is being used and how it impacts the marketplace. When we look upstream and we think about the things we're doing, as we look ahead with automation and we pull in technology like slurry building and barcode scanning and help around accuracy and transparency, our goal as we talk to our upstream partners is to be able to provide a system that allows them the freedom to bring products to market and have the confidence that the equipment will be able to support that product. And so, like I mentioned, low rate products, there's a decent amount of products that when we talk about technology that you don't need a lot of this product on the seed. You need to be able to apply that treatment onto the seed, but you need to be able to do it in a way that works from an equipment standpoint. And if we didn't bring a tool of building slurries, there would be some reservation from some of our upstream partners to be able to say, okay, I have a product that I want to be able to take to the downstream seed treatment market, but there's really not a good way to apply this seed treatment onto the seed. However, knowing this, we can put this into a slurry. We can have confidence that the accuracy is going to be right. And so like I said, we want to give our upstream partners the freedom to bring products to market and have confidence that our equipment, not just today, will be able to handle their products, but as we look ahead to the future, that we're continuing to advance technology to be able to handle their products. And then as we think downstream, and we think about our customer base and the product that they're creating, which is a treated seed that's going to be planted, we want to be able to give their customers the ability to ask the questions and get answers and be able to have confidence that what they're buying from our customers is accurate, is a good product that everyone can stand behind, and that farmers, when they take that seed and they plant it and they purchase it and they pay their bills, that they don't have questions in the back of their mind as to I know I ran this, I purchased the seed treatment that I really like, and I purchased the seed and the genetics that I really like, but I don't really know how they're kind of coming together and if I can trust that process. We want to be able to give them peace of mind on that end, that all of these facets are coming together to have a treated seed that they can have confidence that all the components are delivered and put together to get what they're paying for.
And it sounds like even from, a stewardship and cost of inputs, that this would also help with some, I want to say savings, but savings in terms of dollars in your pocket, but as well as kind of that social license to operate.
Right. And yeah, so we're not, yeah. So when you talk about savings, one indirect way to think about this is, when you're like we kind of talked about earlier, Julie, is that if you're paying for something and you're only getting 80% of what you're paying for, at some point that's going to begin to negatively impact the results that you're getting. And you don't want to pay for something and only get 80% of those results. You want to pay for something and get all of that product. And for our customers, we want them to have equipment and be able to sell something to their customer and not overtreat or undertreat or mix a slurry correctly, so that they're not providing selling or giving away product or giving a shortage of product to their customers is important for them as well.
Sure. And so you mentioned that you're kind of in a stage of bringing this to market. Tell me kind of where you are and what people can expect.
Yep. So we're in an initiative right now of we're moving. So we've had auto treat since 2009, 2010, which is basically our full level seed treater control that has handled the seed treating equipment. And we've kind of this version that we're currently in is what we kind of have considered our version 4 automation. And beginning next summer, we will be releasing our version 5 automation auto treat system. And this V5 auto treat will encompass not just the slurry building tool, but it will encompass a full suite of features and benefits that are not just to help with the reporting and the accuracy tools and the kind of the help from an accuracy standpoint, but we want to be able to make it so that the operators can more and more enjoy this process and make it easier for them to show up to work each day in the middle of a season when they're using their and treating seed for 16, 18 hours a day, and be able to do that with as much peace of mind as they can, knowing that what they're doing is correct and that they don't have to worry that the seed treatment system is doing something incorrectly, or that they can remove from their mind something that they've had to be thinking about, and be able to take that energy and put it towards building your customer base or doing something else that is maybe helpful that an automation system can do for you, and can be more consistent, and doesn't have bad days or doesn't have off days when it comes to the control system. And so we want to be able to bring this to market with our entire suite of features and benefits with V5 next summer. And we're excited to see where this goes. Like I said, this is a part of a large initiative for us from a transparency side of things, where we want to be able to put not just say that we care about transparency, but actually be able to provide a product to our customers that gives them the tools that they can care about transparency, and that they can take that as a tool to their customers and be able to grow their business with that same methodology.
Great. So you're really looking to eliminate that black hole in terms of information and what both the operators, the companies, and the customer has available to them.
Correct. Yes.
Super. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with me today, Jason. I really appreciate and have enjoyed learning about what you guys are doing in this area.
Thank you, Julie. Yep. It's always a pleasure.
That's it for today's Seed World Insider Talk with KSI's Jason Kaeb. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it to be of value. If you've got questions or you want to know more about KSI, feel free to reach out to Jason. You can follow him on Twitter at JasonKaeb_KSI. All right. Thanks for listening, and we hope you have a great day.